But seriously, like which plan is better to have the private sector have their hurdles removed and the gates open for more housing, or is it better to have government run housing companies?
What a beautiful
Anyways,
day it is today, though. The sun is shining. People are out. It's just like
it's confusing.
things are
It's like
happening.
it was like this 4 days ago, I feel, and then we had like this winter again all of a sudden, and then now it's like 18
Beautiful out
degrees
there.
or
I
something
want
again.
to do something. I want to do
I
something.
want to do something. You know what I want to do? I
I'm
wanted to
doing
go to
spring
the
cleaning.
bank. That's what
Oh,
I wanted to do today. Go to the bank and get some checks.
oh, all right. Well,
I had to
write
get
those checks.
temporary checks because who the hell uses checks still? Does anybody still use checks? Do you write checks?
I'm writing a check. If I've got like a business expense that I want to like track for a certain reason, like I want it. So
Yeah.
like, like a sponsorship or like, something that's very specific and I want it
What
because
about a
it's a big
credit card?
amount. It's a big amount. Well, credit card, they're gonna be like, listen, man, what's the credit card that you're using? Like, what's that expense? I just feel like my accountant or the CRA would be like, he's just swiping that credit card. But if it's like a big expense where I gotta pay for something, I'm like, let me write you a check. Because then I get the invoice and I got the check, and then it's like this like large amount coming out of the account, like large amount. I'm saying like I don't know, a couple grand or something, nothing like crazy. But then I'm like, I got the check. Look, I wrote the check. It was a check. It was like, official business to business. That's how I feel. And I'm probably wrong and stupid, like half the things that I do. But that's why I
Seems,
use checks in those
yeah.
situations.
Well, that seems asinine
Yeah.
considering everybody, well, except for one of my lenders,
Yeah.
can take money as a wire or an e-transfer or a EFT or whatever the hell it's called, or like
Yeah.
some way of doing it that isn't a check, which is basically a billion different ways at the moment.
Well,
But
thank
no,
God the real estate industry's changed. Like we still take bank drafts, but I mean, for a long
no
time, that was
wires.
the only way to get the check. It was like, "Where's
Oh,
your office? Oh my,
yeah.
it's in Oakville.
I gotta
Well,
bring
what
it to
what
you.
time is it open?" Like, now I could just
It's
be like, "All right,
fucking
I'm gonna
snowing.
call in a wire at my bank and I'm gonna send it to you. Like, are you ready?" And like, you can just send it. So
You can call
that's
in a wire. You don't have to do it online.
guys, time to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget.
Don't forget to check us out all over the place: Spotify, Instagram, the Clips channel. If you have no attention span, TK, we're literally everywhere. And there's a reason for that. People want us, TK. People want us. People want to buy mirrors from us, sell mirrors to us.
Sell me your
People,
stress.
TK, you're recognized everywhere. You're a celebrity. People should just press subscribe so they can see you more often.
I imagine that you can call in a wire just like any other telebanking you can do.
You have like a bunch of people waiting there for your call to help you with wire.
No, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, any of the stuff that I do, um, you know, maybe I'll transfer within accounts or something like that over the phone. But most of the stuff that I do is I go to the bank. I like to sit there and look them in the eyes and say, what are you doing with that money?
It
We're
wasn't it wasn't long ago before like you needed a check with the offer, remember?
the check with the offer thing. So here, let's put this into perspective, all right?
A check with
So
the offer was better
listen,
than an offer with no check, TK,
well now,
even
but
though
think
it
about it.
wasn't.
And when we're all sitting at the house and there's 10 cars in the driveway and I'm walking in there, in my cheap Moore suit, right? And my fake leather shoes and I'm
This is
like,
such a real story.
I got the bank draft,
Yeah,
right?
you got
I
the
got
bank
the bank
draft.
draft and here it is. Like if you accept my offer, here's the bank draft, right? Well, now it's all done through email because we don't really do those anymore. So people are sending pictures of the bank draft and they're like, the guy's got a picture of the bank draft. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
he
got the
did it.
money ready.
He
I'm
did it.
like, so hold on.
And a receipt you
So
needed.
I'm
You
on
need the receipt and
I'm
a
bringing the
picture.
offer as well. And I'm like, so hold on. My offer says upon acceptance, which means my clients, once you accept, will go to the bank, we'll get a bank draft, and then we will drop it off at your office or send a wire, whatever it is. I'll do it today. But, after you accept it, so we don't waste our time going to the bank and get that.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you bring it here with? Well, is anybody else bringing it here with? Yeah, they sent us the photo. That's not here with. That's saying I got a picture of a check that once you accept, I'll bring it to you. What's the difference? If someone changes their mind after they sign the agreement, they don't want to bring the check and you're fighting them over the deposit, it's the same scenario. Why is that a request that agents are doing?
It's just
Bring
old
the
school
check
idiots.
here,
Listen,
West.
Are you looking for the best merch store on the planet? Well, we got the shit for you. Coming in at low prices where we barely make any money off of whatsoever, you can get the greatest real estate merchandise on this platform. Just look at this very flamboyant man putting on this great stuff. He looks great, he's dancing great, and boy does he look sexy in that merchandise. I tell you, buy this for anybody, you buy this for yourself. You will be not only repping the greatest Canadian real estate podcast in this world, but you will also be looking hella good doing it.
it used to be meaningful first. It really didn't, but like people would use it, especially when like you're buying land. Guys used to be like, just take the check with the offer. Trust me, take the check with the offer.
It's
Okay.
it's better in person with a check, 100%. No argument there. But the
Why?
photo,
Why?
but the
Why is it
picture,
different? The check
because
doesn't even
what?
go anywhere
But if it's a bank draft
if it's a bank draft. Oh,
and you walk in with a bank draft, not a personal check, a bank draft, and I
you ever
collect that
lose
from
one
you,
of those?
that's cash. That's what
You
they
ever
do.
lose a bank draft? That's the worst.
I did. I did.
Yeah. How
I've
big was
lost
the one
bank
you
drafts
lost?
before. It wasn't
That's
a
a
big one, but it was. Oh no, sorry. I lost a bank draft that I was giving to somebody else.
from yourself.
So I had the receipt, and then I went back to the bank and said, "Look, cancel that one. Here's the receipt." And then we figured it all out. But I've
What
never
the?
lost a bank draft that someone gave me. That's good as cash. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't
Don't do
ever
that.
do that.
No.
Well, I guess we're kind of talking about real estate now, but what the hell are we
I,
talking about? How did we
so I
get
got a
here?
deposit story. Let's just keep
Oh,
going.
okay.
So this is a call I got today, and somebody, try not to say too much. They bought a property with their agent, put up a big deposit, can't close on it. They've got a condo to sell,
How
can't
big?
sell the condo.
How big
Doesn't
a
matter.
deposit?
Big deposits, enough to not want to walk away from. So
Over 100 grand?
close to 100,000. Okay.
Okay,
So
close.
they're just like, well, I don't want to use this agent anymore because they can't sell my condo and they sold me the property.
Hmm.
And so
Fucking
now and
loser.
they thought they could keep the condo and they thought they could go and buy the property afterwards and there'd be no issues. Well, they found out that that's not true. And so you got
Not
a
true.
lot of things here. And people think, the deposit is the least amount or the most amount that they could lose.
Hmm.
But this property was bought earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Market was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was sold pretty quick. They might
Market
have
was
paid
pretty good.
in the beginning of the year compared to now. Yeah, things are slowing down.
Oh,
So
compared to now.
Are
Okay,
how
fine.
sure are you? Now all of a sudden they go on the market. I had an offer on one place that the people now are talking about taking it off the market. We had this great offer. It came in like the first week. They were like, "No way we'll take that." And now they're begging for that. And honestly, they could never get that price now. The January
Crazy.
price that I got them, they can't get. And now because they're stuck in there, they're thinking about taking it off the market now in April.
What's his name?
Back to that
Flynn.
deposit quickly, just before, and we'll
Oh,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
that. It's not just that $100,000 deposit. Now they go and sell the property for $200,000 less. It's a pretty expensive property. It's in the city, like
Yeah.
it's near Forest Hill, and so it's like, what are you gonna lose? Like how much? So
Hmm.
what are the stakes? It's not just that deposit. You got
Yeah.
big stakes here. We got to find a solution to be able to sell your place, to be able to get the financing, and people just when they go with an agent, they think, well, he'll figure it out, and the agent just says, just put in a firm offer, buy first. Don't worry, you got a
Yeah,
condo to
don't
sell. What could
worry.
go wrong?
Yeah.
Those are big stakes.
Big stakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Tell
yeah.
me about Flynn, sir.
Well, Flynn was saying, what was Flynn saying? Flynn was saying,
Friend of the show.
Flynn
He's been on the
was
show. He's a
saying
friend of the show.
that prices in April so far are
Mm.
showing like up month over month from last month or
Flynn
last
said that?
April. Yeah, he posted it on
Okay.
Twitter, and I was like, "Whoa, what's going on
It's
here?
got to be true if
Prices
he
are going
says
up."
that. If he
Well,
says saying prices are going up, I believe him.
average prices going up at
Yeah.
least like for 1 month, right?
Okay.
That's good. But how come you didn't know that, TK? What's wrong with you? How come you
Well,
don't feel like
I would
that's the
I,
truth?
I would say based on like anecdotally what I'm
Yeah.
seeing is prices have not gone up and that sales are not where they should be. But there's a seasonal trend that you have to remember too, right?
Okay.
It's a seasonal trend. So as you get closer and closer, to warmer weather and all that kind of stuff, you're going to see people start to buy more, and so more buyers could lead to a little bit pressure. You could also have more expensive houses getting sold around this time because more people are going to be listing single family detached homes in order to be able to get ready for the school year next year, that kind of stuff. So that could also be a factor. But I wouldn't really like anybody who asks me about April numbers now. I'm like, wait a week, man, chill. At the end of the month, we'll find out. Otherwise,
Mhm.
all those mid-month data points are not that
Yeah.
reliable.
None of them are reliable. Midpoint, end point, beginning point, a year later when they're revised,
Yeah.
6 months later when they're revised. It's all a bunch of hooey nonsense. What's crazy, I mean, I keep having conversations and meetings with people who are like, don't say anything, but this guy? Yeah. Well, that guy's in trouble. What?
Mhm.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's talking to us about listing all of his stuff. What? What do you mean all of his stuff? I'm hearing some crazy stuff going on. And most of these people are on
Land
the list.
development.
Land development. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Listen, and guys are
No surprise
nervous.
there. Yeah.
No, but guys are starting to realize, I think, that like on that other product, that maybe people are just not going to want this shit anymore. Or
Mhm.
how long is it going to be before I can launch something? And can I reconfigure it into something that people want and figure out how to make money? Who told me? You told me? Somebody told me that somebody was building a building half the size because
Yeah.
that you?
Yeah, Mississauga.
Crazy, right? Did
True or
you
not
talk about
true?
that last week?
Yeah, true or not true? It was on the show last week.
Well,
So, guys, take anything you hear on this show with a grain of salt.
with for gospel. I mean, there's
Okay.
all kinds of stories out there, but the main theme that I'm hearing a lot of is like, do you know those guys? Like, uh-oh, uh-oh. A
Well,
lot of uh-ohs about to happen, I got a feeling. And what if all those uh-ohs happen simultaneously, TK?
yeah. Well,
Right?
a friend of the show named Sam, who I'll mention Sam because he's a avid listener, and he sold me a great vanity mirror last night off of Facebook Marketplace. So shout out to Sam. Um,
Well
he was
done,
telling me
TK.
some stories about um, state view homes.
Uh-oh.
Right.
What
So
about them?
well, I mean, that was like the first major developer who had a bunch of sites, but got caught in the market with all the interest, and they were the ones that were first in the media, like, oh my God, they had check kiting schemes and all that kind of stuff, and so obviously
Oh
that's like
yeah.
the first big wave of developers, but like guys, all that stuff is going on behind the scenes right now. It's just they're going to different lenders. They're going to like second, third mortgages, higher and higher interest rates. Like they're trying to push push it down the road kick
Yeah.
the can down the road,
Yeah.
so that if the market does come back, they can save themselves. But eventually, it can't, and there's
But
going to be
what's
someone left holding the bag.
there's a
Am I right
issue,
or
right?
wrong? Am I right or wrong on that?
Well, you're partially right. I mean,
Yeah.
guys are out there with deals that made sense a little while ago, and now all of a sudden, like these land valuations just disintegrated. Okay, and the lenders are looking at things very um they're trying to be safe, right? They're trying to be safe. They want to deploy capital. They want to deploy cash. They want to deploy capital, but they want it to be very risk off right now, right? And so they're giving like stupid valuations. And what happening is people, they spend all this money, they buy a site. The assumption is that it will be worth more once it's zoned. They're going to go into the bank, refinance the thing, and now it's like, what do you mean it's not even what I paid for it? The appraiser, like, let me talk to this motherfucker, right? What's going on? No, but I'm hearing it a lot, right?
Yeah.
I'm hearing this a lot. And so there's guys out there right now that are doing stuff like we've talked about a bunch of times, going for more height, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not getting the valuation on the height they have now. So now they're like, well, we're near a subway. Let's go for another 20 stories and push this valuation so we can refine, keep the ball rolling, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's one strategy.
Re-raise, refi,
Re-raise,
all that. Just
whatever now. But
yeah.
now people
Yeah.
are looking for money that they weren't expecting to look for. Now people, and it's a lot of people. Most people are getting crushed. You bought something for 25 million, the new appraisal after zoning,
Yeah.
18 million.
Yeah.
What? Like, how does this happen? Right. And then add to it, like, how much more carrying do I have to do before I can launch this thing now? Right.
Yeah.
When am I going to be able to launch this thing? Right.
Yeah.
Am I going to put all this money into it and wait like 2 years before I can launch a thing? Or am I going to wait to see what happens? And then if you wait to see what happens and things turn, then you didn't spend the money and do the work to get it launched. Right.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do right now. And so people are just sitting around waiting.
And it's a great business model that's worked out for you and many other people over the last
A lot of
decade
people, sure.
because there was that exit strategy of selling the pre-construction condos. And
Not only
if you
selling
got
the pre-con,
if you
you
got
could-
that option and you can, get your construction financing, you got yourself a sweet deal.
Well, or you could flip the land easily because people were willing
That
to buy
too.
something that was
Exactly.
zoned, right? Like
Yep.
now, zoned land's a piece
Good
of shit.
luck.
No fucking way.
Monty,
Welcome to the show.
welcome.
How are you?
Well, you
Not
know
too
what?
bad.
We're enjoying life. Nice, beautiful, sunny day outside.
Spring has sprung.
Spring is here. We got a podcast to record.
Again.
Yeah, welcome. Give us a little introduction here for
I
our
will, but
listeners.
I'm having some. Hold on one second here.
Sure.
I will give you the introduction. Well, my name is Monty Burris, and I own a real estate brokerage, Trust Realty Group. I've been in business for over 20 years. From Vancouver originally, but live in Toronto now. Kind of specialize. I'm a neighborhoods focused specialist, if you will, and just kind of reeling from the ups and downs and what's going on in the real estate market, especially over the last 3 or 4 years. It's been a wild ride. We've been we've been subjected to just about everything under the sun, including things that we never thought possible, like global pandemics. But here we are.
Trade wars
Surviving.
with the states was not on most people's bingo cards either, I imagine.
No, well, there you go. You used to joke about those things, barring a global pandemic. But here we go. I guess we can no longer joke like that.
No.
We got an early election. We had like the crazy spread in interest rates, overnight rate over the last few years. Yeah, it's
Been a
definitely
rough
something
ride.
that many people.
It has been a rough ride, absolutely. And those who predicted it are total liars. Anyway, so there you go.
Total
You said you were
liars.
from Vancouver. Did you do real estate in Vancouver or no? Just in
No, I
Toronto?
didn't. I moved here from New York City, as a matter of fact, in 2007, where I'd been working in real estate there, and then picked it up when I came back to Toronto. So yeah.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm
now-
sorry to hear that. I mean, Vancouver is a beautiful place to live. New York City, like pretty much one of the best cities in the world according to most. And now you're in Toronto.
Yeah, no, I'm in Toronto, but I have a family here, and I got a great business, and I'm a happy Torontonian. So there you go. But I will never be a Leafs fan. So there you go. Okay,
That
Oh,
makes two of us.
just can't do it.
That makes two of us. Don't worry.
Hard to
Just
be
can't do it.
any Toronto sports team fan right now is a difficult proposition. That's
If they win the cup, I'll be at the parade, and I'll be
That's
like,
right.
"Yeah, I'm happy for them." But I'm
Yeah,
not going to
I
go
would
through that
never.
mental health, basket case playoff run that everybody else goes through every single year. No thanks. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So what's going on right now? So we were just talking about April, that there was a stat that said April's prices started to come up. I was sharing just before that where I feel like prices are still just dropping from the peak of maybe January where the most activity was. What are you, and obviously it's all anecdotal on my side. What's your take on the month of April?
Well, I see 4 different markets happening all at once. Okay. So, you really have to break it down. And I think that, as we all know, real estate is hyper local. And so what's happening in one community could be very, very different than what's happening in the other. So I'm always kind of wary to people about looking at the overall statistics, because the general statistics, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about Canada? Are we talking about GTA? Are we talking about Toronto? Are we talking about your location? Are we talking about condos? Are we talking about income properties? Are we talking about residential? There's just so many different subsets. So the answer to that question, though, is that, if you're in the entry level and you're selling in the entry level, and, as absurd as that may be, in Toronto, that's kind of under $1.5 million. But if you're selling in the it's highly competitive, and because you're dealing with a client base, a buyer base, that is needs focused. They need a place to live. Okay, and so they're being driven by their needs, not their wants. Whereas, I think that the luxury market, the higher end market, things are really struggling, and that's a wants market. That's a I want a bigger house, but I don't absolutely need a bigger house. And so, I think families that are looking to move, let's say, buy a $5 million house, they're looking at their current $3.5 million house, thinking, I can get by in this. It's okay. Maybe now's not the right time to really jump into the marketplace. So I see a lot of hesitation kind of on the higher ends. And my business is largely higher end listing based business. So as you can imagine, it's hurting me. And then I think the condo market, which I know you've discussed. I mean, I'm a fan of your show. I watch it, etc. And I've beaten this to death on my videos. In my channel, and the condo market is hopeless, and we're probably 2 years away from the condo market making any sense and sort of any sort of hope of recovery. So very, very different marketplaces, and I think that certain communities are doing really, really well, whereas certain communities are really, really struggling, and that's kind of based more upon desirability, needs, wants, affordability, and kind of limited supply within that kind of community. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the needs part. I've talked about this a few times, just because people, even though all these other things are happening in the background, there's always buyers. It's not because they think it's a great time to buy and that they're hoping the market's going to go up from here and they think interest rates are right. No, they just need a place to live, So they're saying I want to rent and I need a home, so therefore I'm a buyer. And so no matter what the circumstances are, and so under a certain price point, depending on the market, you're always going to have activity at some level, right?
Agreed. Yeah, I agree 100%.
What about sellers right now? Are you dealing with any sellers that are under pressure to sell because of all the factors out there?
So a few. I'm fortunate enough that I don't have many of those, but the ones that I'm dealing with, ironically, are the builders. The builders in the condo market, and there's all sorts of pressure for them because what they've already sold probably covers somewhat, if not the majority, of their costs, but all their profit margin is left unsold. and as they're watching price per square foot plummet and drop around them, and they can't chase it fast enough, and there's panic in the developers for sure.
And those people that did buy are not closing anymore, or are trying to find ways out of the deals, right?
Yeah, and we've got this. Yeah, and you've got 33,000 more units being released this year, and there's literally is blood on the streets, and it's not good, and as you can see, they're now taking these projects, that were condo units that they were going to all pre-sell, and they make their money before they even put a shovel in the ground. They're now moving those to purpose-built rentals, and so trying to exactly, which means their profit margin is 20 years away. So and they got to get financing for all of that, and you
need more equity. It's a whole fucking thing. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
I saw a guy on Instagram. He's a developer in Florida. He's probably pitching to raise money, but he's like, well, the best part about Florida is that you don't need to sell. You can get a loan to build, and you need this much equity, and you need, there's the bank loan, and we're going to pre-sell or use the deposits, and it's our structure, right? But it's like, it doesn't exist in many other places in the States. I mean, you were in New York City, so imagine these buildings that get financed up front and built.
Yeah.
And then something like this happens. Yeah. Is that the solution, or is it a good thing that we have this type of financing in place for these buildings to get built? Otherwise, their situation would be worse. I'm not really sure.
Well, I think that as much as we would love to have deregulation, and it seems all appealing and all that sort of stuff, there's a reason why our banks don't go under, and in America they do. they go under. They over leverage themselves, and they get into these situations, and it's a cyclical thing in America. 2008 was not that long ago. And the government had to step in and support the whole bloody financial industry. and because they can't self-govern themselves. So, I don't know. It's obviously good in booming times, but you have to ask yourself at what cost, right?
How
You're
many
saying,
people were like even not questioning who wants these things? Like, who was sitting there going, yeah, 480 square feet? Like, let's go. This is a great idea. We should make a 2-bedroom in this space,
Yeah, right.
right?
I don't know.
It got
The
crazy.
it got crazy. It got ridiculous, and there's just too many 1-bedroom units or bachelors, and there's no 3-bedroom unit. They don't exist anymore, and it's just not what. It's not on a needs basis. It's based on a how
Hit a
do
target
we
price.
exactly
Yeah.
and manufacture the most price per square foot of the amount that we're permitted to build. And that's it. And that is not needs basis. And that's really, really hard. And it was fine when you were selling them off a plan, pre-construction sold off a plan because nobody had to see what 480 square foot actually looks like. But now that they're coming out and they're left unsold, people walk in and go, what you want?
What did I do?
yeah,
$680,000 for this? Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're not practical. They're not practical anymore,
Not
right?
practical at all.
It was just like a price point and a diagram, and they were like, okay, that makes sense because if I get this much rent, it's going to work. But the actual
Yeah.
people living in them, we never thought about that. How long are they going to want to stay for, right? How long
Right.
is it? How long is that tenant going to even want to be there for, and how easy is it going to be to find that tenant?
But you have
And
those
then
little units all over the place. Like New York is renowned for those tiny units all over the place. No?
yeah, absolutely. The question is how many of them, right?
Right.
Are there? And I just seemed like there was just this mad rush of. I mean, they commoditize them so much, and then when things go to crap financially, what happens to commodities? It's a race to the bottom in terms of price. There was no unique features. There was nothing. There's no pride in it, and so it's a race to the bottom.
No,
That's
and
that's
you know
what
what?
I'm.
You can't do that. You can't have pride in it and you can't do something special because the planning mandates that you're like this square shape. Okay. And then on top of it, it mandates that you have all this amenity space that people won't use that you can't sell on top of like all the other stuff that's like
Yeah,
just planning related stupidities, right?
yeah.
That just chop
You have to
away
have
at the
bike
yeah,
rooms and all of these things, right?
right.
And
Just
it's like,
it eats away at the potential profit. So now it's like, well, do we want to make money or do we want to, make something unique?
yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
these are the things that they gotta realize, right? So I was in a new building today at Willowdale and Shepherd, and it's just like the whole way to get in and out of the building is all messed up. Like I feel like there was like this void in really good buildable land, And
Mhm.
so when you had this great location and this great spot, and you could walk to the subway, like that was the feature of the building that attracted people. If you've got a
Yeah,
property that's on the ravine, it's got this great view, it's the penthouse, it's whatever, then again, those are the unique features. But we just built a ton of not so unique units in not so great locations in buildings in places that no one ever wanted to build in for the last 50 years, but
Shit
it was just
quality
what
too.
was available. And so
yeah,
those units are so hard to sell. Like unless
yeah,
you are just willing to fire sale it at a really, really great price,
yeah. It's no
like good luck.
question.
Why would a buyer buy that right now? They've got their selection. So I mean, you got to
Yeah,
look at that as a seller right now. If you're a condo seller, you got to say to yourself, do I have a unique feature that you can't get anywhere else to make my property sellable, or is it in a really great building that everyone wants to be in because or am I just in some like run of the mill cookie cutter building that they built 300 units in, and I need to be the best price unit around, otherwise I'm not going to sell. That's a hard conversation.
no, yeah, absolutely. And the problem also is that legislatively, we've got government action that is curtailing what the developers can do. But at the same point in time, they are, it's our biggest source of revenue. One of our biggest sources of revenue, of course, coming into the city coffers is development fees and land transfer taxes, etc. So they're all tied to, the city is attached to the outcome of these things. Yet, yet you're boxing the developers into these solutions that the public isn't out there supporting, and therefore can't sell, and then therefore there will be no revenue. So it's trying to suck and blow at the same time, and that just doesn't work.
But we've made some like huge leaps in that direction over the last few years. Like when we started this show, Darryl, if you think about all the policies that have been introduced both through the province and through the city on being able to create more density and to be able to get more height and to be able to no angular plane and like all that stuff. Like I'm not saying it's there yet.
It's all good stuff.
Baby
the timing.
steps.
It was the timing that was
Timing
wrong,
is,
right? They were so late, and in an environment where rates went up, demand went down, immigration got cut off, like everything was shrinking when all the new good stuff came in. So now we have some better planning, but no one can do it. Right? Because you're fucking crazy if you do, or you can't get financing or whatever the hell. There's a lot of things, a lot of hurdles you got to jump over.
We really cut off the hand that fed us when we cut off foreign investment, because the majority of the pre-financing for all of these things came, from foreign investment, and we cut that off. And that was the hand that kept that whole industry going. And then you double whammied it, you cut off Airbnbs, and now you've just removed the whole subsect of buyers that are investment buyers. And you've made that no longer profitable. And so, you've basically cut everybody off at the knees.
Yeah. It's hard though on a political platform to be saying we're going to bring back foreign buyers, right? So the deadline is January 27, and hopefully it just doesn't get renewed, right? And then they just say, okay, the ban is off, and we're back to allowing foreign investors. But everyone blames
I think the ban was originally 2025, right? This has just been kind of kicked down the road.
They extended that, yeah.
Listen, I hear you, but I'm not a politician, so I don't have to deal with that, okay? But I understand the idea of that. But at the same point in time, as we look around this world and we're becoming, there's tariff wars going on all over the place, and we start looking at policies and how, really looking at policies, okay? Do we really want to be the country that turns away foreign money? I mean, I know you have to be smart about it, but one of the reasons why Canada is so great is because it is a safe place to park your money. It is a safe place to own property. Our laws are very, very supportive over individual property ownership, and this is why, whether it's the Chinese or the Russians or Saudi or what, it doesn't matter, wherever. They want their money here because they know their money's safe here. Even if it's delivering 0% return, it's still safe.
And their kids are safe, and it's an environment that's safe. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You say you're in the drug cartel. Okay, you can buy this house, no problem. Right? This is kind of how it works around here in Canada. We're a haven for people to bring in money illegally, which was a big part of the process too. I'm not complaining.
Agreed.
Don't get me wrong.
Agreed.
It was just part of the soup that we had going on here on top of all that other stuff. Just like you're saying, like we had the foreign investor fool, the first fool that came in that we needed for the process. Then you had like the Airbnb investor, right? Who was the next fool to pass the baton on to. But then nobody else wanted it after that all of a sudden. Right? Not enough fools left, right? Well, but this is what the whole thing was built on.
Just to wear the other hat, though, because we all have a vested interest in real estate doing well. Sure. There's a subset of people, a huge part of the population who say, well, foreigners are the reason why the real estate is so overvalued in Canada, and that it started in Vancouver, and it's obviously come to Toronto and other parts of Canada, and that if we could have limited that in the first place, it would have prevented prices getting out of hand, right? And then we'd still be able to afford everything, and we wouldn't have the debt crisis that we do and everything else too. But we can't go back in time, so I may agree with them. But really what we got to do now is we got to, sustain this market and to be able to come out of this. And maybe there's got to be different policies around foreign buyers, maybe limiting a certain type of property or something. But we need that money coming in. We need 100% of that money coming in to be able to continue what we've been doing for the last 20 years.
I'm not pretending that I've got all the answers, but I just know that cutting yourself off from foreign investment is not the right answer. And, I witnessed it firsthand in Vancouver. I grew up in Vancouver, and Vancouver, from the small town that I grew up in, to what it is now. Obviously, it's a completely different place, but part of the big problem there is Vancouver became the money laundering capital of the world. I mean, all the gray money in the world went in, and they bought houses, and they just let the house sit there and empty. And and Vancouver welcomed that, and they loved it because they were addicted to the rise in their property values, and the city loved it because the property values went up and meant more taxes, and it just became this kind of circle, a circle that to unaffordability. So that's not the right way to do it. But you don't want to be a country, that turns its back on foreign investment. That's the one thing I do know.
They need to siphon it just in a different direction, right? Like instead of these individuals buying condos that everybody knew that they were never going to buy, they should force them into purpose-built rental pools, into investment pools where a building is going to get built, right? That's like easier for developers to get their hands on money if they have a site that's ready or something.
Yeah, I also think that I mean, as we move towards more accountability by the government, we have to start thinking about buckets. And when I remember when the land transfer tax, when Toronto first introduced the land transfer tax, you remember that 2000. What was it, 9?
8 or 9 maybe?
8 or 9 around there, right? And I think the initial revenue was $280 million that came out of that, right? And this was a needs basis. We need this because the city can't afford itself anymore because we're so far under. Now that $280 million is probably close to $1 billion that the city's bringing in, although that's retracted in the last couple of years as volumes have gone down. But it's probably up around the $800 million basis, and the city is no better off. You just, so that money, it's worse, but that money should have been allocated to a certain thing to address housing. Like it should have just gone into the general bucket. Okay, and it should have been allocated. So going back to what you're talking about the agenda behind this legislation has to be focused about pushing that responsibility in the right direction.
Yeah.
And they proposition that.
Whether that's purpose-built rentals or what have you, I don't know. But I'm just saying that, the fact that you just keep adding taxation, these politicians seem like the only answer they ever have to anything is taxation. All problems, we'll find a tax for it, right?
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, but it's not dealing from the supply side. It's dealing 100% from the demand side, and that never works.
Are you a real estate agent and you're looking to make a change anywhere in Ontario? Guess what? We're hiring. Franklin Associates, #1 team in the GTA for all RE/MAX teams, #1 team for all teams from all companies for number of units sold throughout Toronto. So if you're looking to make a change, best decision I ever made was to join Franklin Associates. Go to jointeamleo.com and we can set up a call. Bradford was talking about this week, like a congestion chief. So somebody who would be in charge of how to be able to remove congestion in the city. So that's kind of the same thing, right? It's just like,
isn't that a city planner's job?
How do you not?
Well, he wants someone
have that with all those
specific
people there,
whose job is to regulate how people are moving around this city and just like overlook it, because obviously the planning department's got their thing, and you're going to have transportation and all that. Those departments working on it already, but he wanted somebody to actually work on that, and it could be just like a platform for him to get his voice out there. But it's as an example of like the buckets, like you're talking about. I totally agree. Find some sort of revenue source and say, okay, here we are, laser focused. It's kind of like how Doge in the States has been focused on government efficiency. laser focus on something here in Toronto that's going to build. We've got these housing accelerator funds now at the federal level, which are pretty useless. We've got obviously provincial legislation, that's been coming in over the last few years. Every year the Ford government's introduced some new legislation in order to be able to promote new housing. We haven't got it yet. So like put someone in charge,
It's
give them a
coming.
role.
It's coming.
Like a Darryl Frankfort, you are now responsible for not
do it.
like the government. Like
I'll do it.
Daryl's job is to build 100,000 houses.
I can do it.
So
I can
if
do
he
it.
doesn't do it, he loses his job.
I'll do it.
As opposed to like, we're all going to work together to be able to get this. Like, make it very specific.
Just
Where's
give
Darryl
me
going to
enough
get the money
equity.
from?
Give me money.
He's getting it from this new tax or this new, those fees. The Section 37 fees are all sitting in the city's account still. They haven't built any parks or done anything with it. Like, why are developers paying? Right?
Give me enough money and a mandate, and I will get it done, TK.
I know
but I would and there's lots of guys.
That's why I nominated you.
No, but there's lots of guys that would get it done if you gave them the same environment where it's like, just give us enough equity to do this thing and keep the money flowing for this. We'll build like tons of stuff. There's tons of guys, right? They'll just build so much stuff. It's unbelievable. So this is a good segue into what's about to happen in the next few days, I think, right? Because there's two very different platforms for housing that are being thrown around right now.
Sure.
Certainly we don't care about any party's platform except for conservative and liberal. I don't know which side of the aisle you stand on. Maybe you're a liberal like TK. Maybe you're more conservative like me. But it doesn't matter. We love everybody around here except for liberals. But seriously, like which plan is better, to have the private sector have their hurdles removed and the gates open for more housing, or is it better to have government-run housing companies?
Well, the answer to that question is that I dip on both sides of the aisle. Definitely socially liberal, but I'm more fiscally conservative. So it really depends on kind of the issues of the day. Listen, I will always side with private development over government funded, almost in all sorts of circumstances. Absolutely. But the question has to be, and this is kind of where I come back to that whole idea of, you can't be sucking and blowing at the same time, is the legislation and the social security, responsibilities have to be supportive of what the end mandate is. And what I found is that very often between the federal and the provincial governments, you do not have consistent policy towards anything, and it just ends up becoming a big circle jerk, and nothing gets done. So right. So whichever way you want to go on that, like I'd be more interested in the details than kind of the high level stuff. But generally speaking, I would almost always opt for private development over federal or things, just because of the waste.
The issues right now on the liberal side of the platform is they're just like throwing more of what they were doing before. And so like the way Canada votes, in my experience, and how my vote has always gone, is we vote for the other guy. Like, we need change. We need someone who's going to come in there with fresh thinking, who's going to be saying to themselves, I'm going to now use a totally different way of solving the issues that the last party wasn't able to solve, And so, I mean, all these polls that are out there right now, they're starting to go in the conservatives' favor. I believe the conservatives are going to win. I don't think it's a question. I think that and by the way,
you see it.
Darryl, there's a lot of conservative boomers, by the way. Okay, listen, we forgot about them. We labeled all the boomers as liberal, but it's just because they're the largest voting populace, and because the liberals have been winning, they've been carrying them on their backs. But there are still plenty of conservative voting boomers. So just
we just all get the signs off our lawns so nobody destroys our houses.
So, but that's the issue: is more fuel on the fire from their previous policies.
I think there's going to be a liberal minority is what I'm calling for. So anyway, we'll see. Yeah. The big thing is, of course, is the existential threat that remains south of the border. And
how crazy is that sentence?
What's that?
How crazy is that sentence? Like,
right?
Just that we're even saying something like that.
Saying that, right? It's wild.
Wild.
And, I think that while the housing, remains probably one of the realest topics out there for all of us to consider, I think that unfortunately everything just kind of pales compared to what's happening down
I
across the
think the
border.
target's off our back, to be honest with you. I know we're targeting automotive still. That's a major thing in the steel and aluminum, but there really is no way for them to run the automotive industry without the current manufacturing north and south of the border. Like it doesn't exist.
No,
And
it
the same
doesn't.
thing with the steel and the aluminum that they've got in the States. There's lots of limitations on that too. Maybe there might be tariffs that will exist in the end on steel and aluminum, but I don't see a scenario where there won't be free trade with the automotives. And now he might have some sort of idea on like, forcing if he gets Honda to start building a plant in the States, or if he gets someone who has like a 10-year plan to move one of their factories to the States, that's a win for him. And he might say, okay, remove the tariffs now because they're already committing to building the plant and they'll eventually shut it down in Canada, which
Well,
obviously is bad for us. But
he
the
did that.
tariffs,
He did that. He declared that Honda was going to build a plant, and Honda came out and said, "You mean the plant we already built? It's already up and running, and yeah, it's kind of already there. And nice try."
check in the win box, right? So like
Right?
those type of things will be, he got an ego. He
Win.
needs to feel like a win. He's got
The
to be able to
problem
come out
is,
and say, I won. That's what it is.
but the problem is that he's backed himself into a corner where there is no win here. Okay, he's backed himself into such a situation, okay, where if he retreats, he looks like a loser, which, whatever, but he is. But if he keeps going down this path, I mean, it's mutually assured destruction. And so I don't see how he gets out of this. I don't see where the escape valve is.
Well, he's going to come out and he's going to reword it. When you're a narcissist, you reword the past and you make it your own. And so he's going to just come out and say, I did this, I did that. And he'll pound his
Yeah,
chest and
sure.
we'll say, good for you. But in the end, you're absolutely right. There's no win. The tariffs will come away. We'll all feel like we're back on track again and that we're safe. Him in China, he's already softening everything right now on China as well. So that'll be another situation that he'll come out where he'll be able to say, I did this, I did that. And, those tariffs will all be dropping back down to where they should be based on, previous trade agreements. And he'll be able to come out saying he's won and he'll spin that story and he'll have a bunch of sounding boards agreeing with him.
We'll see. I
That's my
hope you're
take.
right.
That's
I
my
hope
take.
you're right. But I actually do think that he actually believes this. Like he actually believes that trade deficits are the evil that he thinks they are. Never mind the fact that, you're talking about a nation that's 10 times bigger than the other nation, and all he looks at is the gross number. It's totally ridiculous.
He's been
But
talking about it since like the 90s
forever,
on Oprah or
forever,
something like that. Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find tracks of him going back when he had hair.
But he does believe it.
And
Like he
he
believes
does.
it to the
He
core.
does. So that's the problem.
Yeah, they're
is
not
that,
coming off, TK.
I don't know. Like TK, I
I'm putting
love
it on
what
the
you
internet.
think-
I'm putting it on
Yeah,
the
there you
internet.
go.
So I
There
could
you
be
go.
wrong. I'm wrong often.
100,000 views.
But I mean, hey, it's like I used to live in Boston. I lived in Boston for 2 years, and they used to say in Boston is you don't like the weather? Wait a minute, right? Well, you don't like the tariffs? Wait a minute. So we'll see. He changes his policy every few hours.
Every few hours.
I think it's actually the best thing that could have happened to Canada. I'm just an optimist because right now everybody's finding ways to trade with Europe, other parts of
Yeah, I
Asia.
agree.
When China stopped buying U.S. Oil, they came to us. Like there's so many
I
things that
agree.
will come out of this that we'll check twice next time. We'll say, well, should we go to the U.S.? We might be looking at interprovincial pipelines that could come out of this. Like there's so
I
many
agree.
things that will be a positive long term for Canada.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also agree that, this is a country that, has a very, very bright future. Just in terms of because we have access to the water and and the lumber and the minerals and I just think we have such a bright future. And this is a great place to be. And Europe wants to trade with us. Asia wants to trade with us. Everybody wants to trade with us, and they want consistency. And I think that this really, really in the long run will be a much a really, really good call to arms to make sure that we're protected for the future.
Yeah, just it's a bumpy road along the way, so we gotta just
Yeah, agreed.
brace
Agreed.
ourselves.
Well, how does the states treat us then when we do make this pivot away from them? Are they still our friends, or do we have to worry about these bastards
We're
now
so
all the time?
small compared to them. I know everyone gets excited when I say this, but like
And we
we're
have
not
great shit.
we're their
TK. We
biggest
have
trading.
great shit.
I know, but like they have so many other options. They're a massive powerhouse of an economy. The 10% that we would be able to sort of divert to other countries or anything like that will not affect their overall supply. So I don't believe that that's going to be something that they're going to be as affected by.
I also think that you have to remember that barring catastrophe, there's going to be an election in 3.5 years. So he's not forever, and so we'll have to see what happens then. Things can change very, very quickly.
Xi Jinping Trump. No, he's going to change the rules next.
Yeah, maybe. You never know.
Maybe. You
He would
never
he would
know.
love to, but he would love to, but
He would love to. I
Absolutely.
always said, like, this is a plan that you need some runway for. Like, this is not a 3.5, 4 year plan that he's trying to execute, which makes me wonder, right? Because they're like on full steam ahead with this plan. Tariffs, Doge, like they're ripping shit apart. They're no.
But Darryl, yeah, they are. But here's the other thing is that like they talk about manufacturing like we're going to go back to like Henry Ford and there's going to be like hundreds of people on a conveyor lines and stuff. These factories in China are all robots. They're dark. They're totally dark. You might have a couple IT guys and maybe I don't know, a couple mechanics kicking around, but they're huge factories that are empty of people.
And their
Like,
people have
what is-
higher skills than the
Yeah.
Americans do too, which would take a generation to train, right?
But this is also why it needs to come on shore because they're just doing it with robots that cost X. We can do it with robots that cost X. And now we don't need to ship it and wait for fucking ever for it to get here. We can just make
Except
it
for-
here.
Except for we lost a generation of people who know how to build those factories and
Right.
understand how to to make that all work.
Program it.
That is a generation that does not exist,
Yeah.
and so it's just not that simple.
Did you see
And-
the meme Chinese videos of what America
Yeah, I
would be
love
like?
them. I
Right?
love them.
Love it.
It's a bunch
I
of
love
overweight people in like
I-
McDonald's t-shirts
I
and
love-
stuff,
I
on sewing
love them.
machines.
It's great.
I love them. I got Elon Musk showing like Nike shoes and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. Good stuff.
It's funny, but I mean that's basically
it's
what you
true.
just said, Monty, which
Yeah.
is just like we haven't conditioned a working class to be able to handle any of this manufacturing. They're going to say,
But
well,
it's
we need to import people now to do that.
I need
We're gonna-
80
where are we gonna
bucks
get
an
it from
hour to
China?
do that. Yeah.
his whole base, right, is when people say to me, and I've been asked this, like, why don't they listen to logic, right? Why does the MAGA base listen to logic? And I'm like, it's because they don't care about the issue. The issue to them is liberals are the devil, and anything that a liberal will support is horrible, is
Satanic.
satanic, and they'll make up any excuse to get around that. But what liberals really represent is change. They don't want change. They're opposite of change. So this whole thing about bringing manufacturing is about going back in time to this sort of idyllic days when America was, well, he wants to go all the way back to 1870 or something, whatever, etc. When America was at its peak, and that was like post World War II manufacturing and the production that went along with that, it's never going to happen. It doesn't happen. You can't do that. Plus, it's blind to think that life was so much better then. That's just categorically not true.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
not.
actually, you're right. It's absolutely right. The signs of an advancing economy is that your
Doing it less.
population doesn't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And that's
Absolutely.
actually going in reverse to what
Yeah.
like the Industrial Revolution brought on and what everybody's been doing lately, which is obviously through tech. And that the world needs to have more globalization, not less.
Yes,
There should be
absolutely.
certain places that, like I was saying this joke last week, where they're mining cobalt with babies strapped to their back, and there's certain places that there should be, robots
Balance.
and super high AI futurization, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, ultimately it's thoroughly predictable because while you can make the cause about tariffing China and doing this, at the end of the day, the electorate of America are addicted to cheap products. And
Hmm.
they, as soon as their cheap products, their Walmart products double in price, that's it.
Hmm.
We're done. We're done with this
Hmm.
program. Move on to the next.
Yeah.
Right.
So how does this all affect real estate? We'll get back to real estate.
So back to the real estate. I mean, what we're talking about is uncertainty. I mean, we're talking about planning a business, and that also relates to humans in terms of planning their family and planning their finances and planning everything. And when you don't know what you don't know, you do nothing. You're stasis.
Yeah.
And we work in, as a broker, we work in the world of commissions where something has to happen for us to make any money,
Right.
right? And we are not creating a safe environment where people can go and say, yeah, it's a piece of shit and it's $1.6 million, but it's going to be my piece of shit. We're not building a safe environment where people feel enabled to do that.
Hmm.
And that's just because of the uncertainty that we've got. And this is, like I said, the Orange Oompa Loompas big existential threat. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's shrinking. We got people on the sidelines, except for the people that are their absolute needs, and those people are largely being driven by the now lower interest rates. Interest rates have come off, of course, and that's fueling things because the needs are fueled by that. But the wants, I'm going to sit on my wallet for a while until this all gets kind of sorted out.
Yeah.
So, I just think it's uncertainty, and in uncertain times, that is, people spend less money, they sit on it, and they wait until there is certainty,
Are you,
and that affects us big
are you,
time.
are you, are you dealing with or talking to people that want to move out of the country?
Not moving out of Canada, but I am talking to a lot of people who are moving from the States to Canada,
From the States to
and
Interesting.
Canada. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, a lot of them are Canadians coming back to Canada,
Ah,
and because as one of my clients says coming from back from Florida, says it's just really weird. It's just really weird down there, and they're getting threatened.
have they been
There's
here lately? Like,
yeah,
it's not
well,
so normal here, I think. No?
fair enough, but I think that as all those Fox News watchers down there, and they're looking at the Canadians, and they are threatening them. They're
Hmm.
actually threats of violence.
Oh
They're
my
looking
God.
at them as the enemy. They believe that we're actually stealing from them,
Right.
and yeah, and that now has that name now has a face, and that face is Canadian. And the Canadians I'm talking to are like, time to get out of here.
Not
We're out.
comfortable anymore. Yeah.
Not
Wow.
I
comfortable.
saw a video last night, and I'll just say what it was. It was in China, and it was a black American young guy with a Chinese girlfriend walking down the street, and a bunch of Chinese guys like harassing him, throwing stuff. Like, I don't know, they're harassing him in some way. And the video was basically like saying they're harassing this American guy because he's got a Chinese girlfriend, but it's under the pretense of like this tensions between China and U.S. Now, I have no idea. This could have been totally unrelated, and it's just
Sure.
propaganda for people to see what that is. But I mean, that's what happens. I mean, we were booing the U.S. Anthem, right, at the
Yeah.
games. There's been all
Yeah.
sorts of tensions in different ways, and Americans aren't exactly the most. I want to say this nicely. They're a little bit gullible. You know what I mean? Sometimes they're a little bit naive on what's going on outside of the U.S. Right?
Yeah.
That their
Yeah.
media
Definitely naive.
Propagandized.
will
They've
send will
been,
send them videos of Canada and how we're trade deficits and all these type of things, right? And they'll believe it, right?
they're
Yeah.
And so
brainwashed.
it becomes it becomes I'm trying to say it nice and Daryl's just like
Oh,
you know
I'm trying to translate for
we
you
got
because
we
you're
got American
dancing here.
we got American viewers, and obviously like we got nothing against American people. It's just one
No,
guy
none
right now who's causing
whatsoever.
us a problem, right?
Some
It's
of
just
them
like
are
there's
Yeah,
pretty
absolutely.
fucking dumb. Like, let's
so
be
we're
honest.
Yes.
Canadians. Come on.
Yeah.
Sure.
Look, there's dumb people everywhere. There's stupid people everywhere. I mean, you know,
The States is a special stupid, though, I find. Like when
there
I
is
go
a
there,
special.
they're pretty
There is
dumb.
a special stupid. There
Yeah,
is a
there's a
special
special.
stupid. But you know, I mean, again, I know this is a real estate show. I want to stick to real estate. But what has happened that's gone so wrong? Okay, that this is where we're at. Like, what has happened that we've gone so wrong that, you know, the whole world is stealing from you, that you can't trust anybody? I mean, you were always geocentric and kind of world ignorant. But like, what has really gone so wrong that this is where we're at now? It's wild to think that we've I feel like we've jumped the shark here.
They're not bringing
But,
up fentanyl anymore. Fentanyl is not a topic anymore, right?
Oh, come on, yeah, or 1 pound of fentanyl a year, like what a joke. But that's what they're that's what my Canadian clients living in the States are getting. They're like, oh, it's the fentanyl crisis out of Canada. I'm like, you're believing this, you just believe everything. Yeah, no matter how
it comes
absurd.
with them from everywhere. Like it
And
comes
what about
from
all
every
the
source.
guns we get from the States? Jesus, we should be fucking protesting that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's our borders,
so
right? That's our borders coming in.
We're seeing, and yeah, isn't it? Sorry, but if there's fentanyl going into the States, isn't that your border security that should be?
Yeah, you're supposed to
with that?
not let it in.
Don't let it in.
Right.
It's like
Like,
we'll
right.
tell
Let
you,
it
give you
in.
good advice here. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, talk to your border security about that. So
It's your fault because you're trying.
So I mean, you know, I'm seeing a lot of Canadians coming back to Canada, and I don't know if you read that article in the Toronto Life about there's an interview with a head surgeon, and he was talking about the amount of doctors that are applying to move into Canada, both
too.
Canadians and Americans. So you know, I think they're
Welcome.
You can only exactly. You can
Need
only
'em,
you can only push so far before, you know, the intellectuals and the educated are going to say enough of this. You want to be uneducated and conspiracy theorists, cowboys, go ahead. I'm going to go find a happier place
And
to
hopefully it
live.
stops our brain drain too, because the amount of young people graduating from Canadian universities or American universities and deciding to take jobs in the States was huge. But they're getting paid like so much money at these tech companies, which is dropping. Okay, I'm watching those offers are actually coming down. I watch them. Like there's a few different places that I see comments on what people are getting offered. The numbers that they're getting offered are lower. The job offers from people who are graduating from top tiered universities in software engineering and all these, you know, coding type of industries, those are, you know, dropping as well. Right? There's been some layoffs, but
Yeah.
mainly the growth is not there. So hopefully the brain
think-
drain stops and we continue to
You
grow.
know, TK, you were talking about positive spin-offs on this, and I think that is definitely going to be one of them. I think that there will be this sense of national pride. I think that there will be, you know, less brain drain and a lot more people just sticking around and being proud to be Canadian, proud to be living here. And I hope so. But I also know that for big cities, Toronto, which really is the commercial hub for everything in Canada, you know, we have to be able to attract international, business people and scholars and academia, and we have to be, and you have to be open to new things. And so I hope that we benefit where the United States is turning their noses up at people, etc. I hope that we become that. I think there's a real opportunity for us to slip into that, and so there is
I hope
opportunity
so.
there. There is
Okay.
opportunity there.
The reason I ask is because a lot of the conversations I have with entrepreneurial types is like,
Yeah.
let's move to Texas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of them. And
Sure.
and I know
Yeah.
people, I know somebody moved to Mexico. I know somebody moved to Ecuador. I know somebody just told me she moved to Turks and Caicos. Like I know a couple of people that have moved to Texas. I
Yeah.
mean, they're very wealthy, the people that are all leaving. That
Yeah.
that's
Did they
one
have their
thing that-
measles shots?
I didn't ask them because I was far more interested in the unbelievable homes that they were able to buy, right?
For
For nothing.
for what we pay for a pizza? Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
It's crazy. Like it's like a down payment here gets you a bloody mansion with a pool, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild, right?
It's wild.
Yeah,
I don't blame people for going to the States. Like I see why they do it, right? But I
yeah,
think that especially young people, like you're getting this
yeah,
amazing job offer, you don't have family, you don't have roots, all that kind of stuff, right? But long term, is it going to be, a good fit for you and your family? I actually was always propositioned out of school going to I think it was Vegas or LA for fire protection. And that's what everybody was doing. And they were like, yeah, this is a great path. This is a great path. And I was like, I don't want to live in the States.
yeah.
It's dangerous.
Well, I lived in
It's
the
like,
I lived in the States for 9 years, and and I loved my time there. And I have nothing. Let's be really, really clear against Americans. Okay, so it's not that at all. I loved my time, but when it came time to start a family and to raise a family, I came home. I came back to Canada. I'm still a proud Canadian, and that's where I wanted to be. And and I never wanted to live in a gated community. I don't like. I just don't want that. It's such a divergent world down there, man. It's just so divided.
yeah.
So divided.
I've been to their hamburger helper places, and you go to restaurants and stuff like that, and you look around and you're just going like, what's going on in here?
Where
Right?
am I?
What kind of
And it's not getting
great
any
country is
better.
this, right? But
No, when you
they have some
drive
nice
to
spots.
Florida, it's really crazy as you drive down the highway and you look and you're like, it's all shanty towns like everywhere. These
Yeah,
are like just
yeah.
garbage pieces of
Garbage.
shit all over the place.
Yeah.
How is this the wealthiest country on the planet? It's like, and then you go to a couple of pockets that are ridiculous, and
Ridiculous.
everybody is just dripping in money
Yeah.
and crazy. And then, like, literally 98% of the area is just people are fucking launching nukes at each other, and their
Yeah.
houses are run down, and it's crazy.
Knock on the wrong door and you get shot. Like,
Yeah.
come on, what's going on here? Right?
thing.
So
A lot of Spanish down there. A lot of Spanish.
just wild.
It's Spanish.
Yeah, they're the ones. They're not usually the ones that are shooting anybody. It's usually the
No, I just mean like it's obvious
redneck
that,
white dude
they
is
have
usually shooting them.
for sure. They have a lot of people from Mexico that move
Yes.
there, and obviously they have a lot of illegal aliens there too, and they have those type of issues, right? So I mean, it
Quick
just
trigger
adds to their.
fingers.
It just I'm just saying overall, just as like what we're not used to seeing, right? So it just adds to this like other level of population there. You have like the rich people who've been there forever. You got the people who look like they're sleeping with their cousins, and then you got the people who you're like, that guy, he doesn't have his papers. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
how
That
the-
guy doesn't belong here.
Cops drove by, and he was hiding behind a van.
That's the real problem. When you asked the question, Monty, the problem and what's happened over the last few years is this crazy immigration worldwide that's happened to all of the major cities in every single country on earth. There's been this crazy spreading of cultures that happened too quickly with no assimilation to the local traditions or very little. And on top of like not assimilating, almost forcing their own cultures down the local throats. And this is not a Toronto thing or a Montreal. This is literally every major city is dealing with this same issue. And this is disintegrated the cultures all around the world to a point where everybody wants to kill each other all the time.
Yeah, and we think it's really, really bad. I mean, Canada's really, really lucky. We built a wall. It's called the America. But you're in Europe. I mean, it's like you said, it's a real problem everywhere for sure in terms
They don't
of
have the
how to deal with
borders.
it, how to deal with it.
Yeah, like we have we're
And
the
it's
longest protected border in the world, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's our border. There's our border wall. We got a big border wall. It's called America. But then at the same point in time, going back to what I was talking about before, and being addicted to your cheap goods from Walmart. Like you have to. Somebody's got to take these jobs, these minimums, wage jobs, these really work in the fields, the all of that sort of stuff. And so, you become addicted to a certain lifestyle. And, isn't the American dream that you move to America and you start at the bottom and you work your way up, and eventually, you save your dollars and cents, and then you buy your own place, and then you maybe have your own whatever it is, small business, and away you go, that sort of stuff. Like, that's the American dream, right? So if you're cutting off the supply of cheap labor, that entry level labor, you're either going to have rapid inflation, or you're just not going to have the same type of lifestyle that you've come accustomed to, that you expect.
I think we used to.
So what is it? So what is it?
But we used to have sex to increase the population. It wasn't based on just bringing in all kinds of people from other countries. People had 4, 5, 6, 8 kids, right? And the population grew, and then they fucking worked on the farm or in the family business or in whatever. Like, now it's like, can you just go outside for 8 minutes? Right? Like,
Right.
what, right? Like, they don't want to
See
do
the sun?
anything. Who the hell wants
Someone's
to do
got 4
anything
kids.
now?
You look at them like they're crazy.
You're a
Yeah.
madman. if you
4
got
kids. You guys were busy, right? Before that was
Right?
just like
No
normal.
kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with you?
shows- Shows what the
Absolutely.
times have changed. So Monty, give us
Yeah,
a little
no kidding.
prediction,
Too
if you
expensive
don't
to have
mind.
kids.
Okay,
Give
my
us a little
is-
prediction for the rest of this year. You already talked about the
Okay.
election, but talk about real
Yeah,
estate.
I think there's likely going to be a liberal minority. That's where I see this coming down the pipes. I think that the more Trump talks, the more he pushes people away from the conservative choice. That's the way I look at that. We'll see. I mean, it's national polls are naturally wrong because we don't have a system like the States where you actually get to vote for who our prime minister is. We vote for our local representatives, it's legislative, so it's really, really hard to pin that down as to how the polls are going to come out. But so that's going to happen there. Trump's going to continue on his tariff thing. He's going to have to figure out a way to get out of this. I think that eventually, probably by the end of the summer, these things will be brought down to more manageable levels. I know we're at 10%, whatever it is now, but there'll be some sort of relief coming out in that. I predict that there's going to be more rate drops to continue to stir the economy on, which will fuel the real estate industry, making properties cheaper just by virtue of the mortgage getting cheaper. So that will move things along. I kind of see fits and starts for the real estate industry over the course of the next year. I think it's a great time for people out there. If you're an investor out there, if you're thinking about multi-unit, it's the absolute perfect time to be looking at those. I think that's where the arbitrage is right now in this marketplace. And then I would, for any of people who are thinking about condos as from an investment purposes, I would actively start looking for opportunities out there. And I'm getting a sense that that's happening out there. I'm seeing corporations numbered corporations out there throwing bids, 70% of ask, 70% of ask, just bulk bids, see what sticks. Right. And so I think there's going to be opportunity out there. But I always tell my clients, look, you can make good decisions in bad times and you can make bad decisions in good times. Don't look at that. Look at opportunity. Opportunity is what you really, really want. Okay. And the opportunity depends upon what the property is, so I think that, probably by the fall market and into next spring market, people should be who are looking to accumulate and looking for condominiums. That's going to be a really, really good time to be an opportunist. Okay. And then I think we'll slowly start to build back up into the luxury market, and the luxury market will start to take hold. I would encourage, and I know I'm not running for office, I never will, too many skeletons, but I would really hope that we look at foreign investment and turn that back on. And maybe you have to have some sort of bumpers, mandates on that, etc. But I think we want to be a place that is seen as open for business, especially with the United States looking like they're closed for business. We want to be the people that do that. So that's what I would do. And I would hope that Canada will spend a lot of money out there promoting ourselves as, a great place to live, a great place for people. You wanted the States. Well, we're here, and Toronto might not be New York, but it's Toronto. And this is a fantastic place it's better, better lifestyle, safer, and has all of those things that I think we really need to be promoting ourselves on the world stage, is that viable alternative. So that's what I really hope for. And I hope that also our next leaders realize that this is a warning call, that we cannot be so dependent, that we have to figure out other solutions. And so looking at trade deals with Europe, I would love to join the EU. I would love for Canada to join the European Union and certainly have trade deals in place. So looking for other options and secure our north for sure. Make sure we're securing our north. So that's what I think.
Beautiful. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show today.
Hey, love this. This is awesome.
Give a little shameless plug. Where can people find you who are listening?
At Broker Monty Burris. On Insta, and my YouTube channel at Broker Monty Burris. Trust Realty Group is the name of my company. You ever need any help, reach out. You can find me on Insta at Broker Monty Burris anytime.
Amazing. Well, we appreciate your time today, Monty.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate being here. Come on anytime you ask.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a great one.
All right. You too.
Thanks.
Take care, guys.
Adios. TK, another day, another few dollars spent.
I feel good. We did our thing. We did our dance. Maybe we should do a little like, comment, and subscribe.
It's probably a good idea, considering we like when people do that.
Yeah. Well,
Coming
guys,
up on 10,000 subs, TK. We got to get there. What are we going to do? What are we going to do for 10,000 subs? Should we have a party
giveaway
should we have a backyard party at your house? A barbecue?
I think merch giveaway at the barbecue, party at TK's house.
Party at TK's house.
All right, guys. Time to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget
to check us out all over the place. Spotify, Instagram, the Clips channel. If you have no attention span, TK, we're literally everywhere. And there's a reason for that. People want us, TK. People want us. People want to buy mirrors from us, sell mirrors to us.
Mirrors to us.
TK, you're recognized everywhere. You're a celebrity. People should just press subscribe so they can see you more often.